Welcome to the Movie Talk Show with Dave Callari from DC Unboxed and from the Screenwriter's Room, the screenwriter himself, Rob Alvarenga. Now, here is your host, Joe Zapata.
What's up, guys? I'm Joe Zapata. Another week of movie talk, and we got a great show for you. We're going to talk about Daredevil. Great episode that dropped. So let's say hello to the team first. Dave Callari and Rob Alvarenga. What's up, guys?
Hello, what's up?
What's going on?
What is going on, man? Great episode we're going to talk about. So let's first talk about the other topics we have. And the first one is in 1988, there was a movie called They Live. Good movie. We're starring Roddy Piper and Keith David. And it's reports right now that 38 years later, John Carpenter's wife, Sandy, is actually said that they're going to do a reboot of the They Live series. I love the original. I loved it. It was really good. I love Roddy Piper. So, I thought it was really good. I'm a wrestling fan. So Roddy Piper was back in the day. He was my man. I'm going to start off with you, Rob. Let's see. Did you enjoy They Live, and will you look forward to this reboot?
Yes. Well, answer the first question. Yes. They Live is one of those movies that I go back to visit every so often. I think it was such a fun movie, and it really had like a real powerful message. It really spoke to how propaganda can be used as a weapon, for they, as far as taking control over a population. So, the fact that kind of topic was back in the 80s, for me, this movie was kind of ahead of its time. So having a reboot, I think, we've kind of spoken this, and I think everybody knows more or less my feelings about it. Generally, I've kind of not been a big fan of reboots, reimaginings, and that sort of thing, because a lot of times, more times than not, it's just not good. And it's not going to be a good, follow up to the original. So this, I think, though, is actually timely and topical, and I think it's a movie that needs to be reintroduced to a new audience. And so this is, for me, is an exception. I think, and I'm hopeful that if they do it right, it could hit as hard as the original. That is my hope, is probably high hopes, because it's got big shoes to fill, in my opinion. That kind of movie is one of those movies where it really only could have been made in the 80s, because there was no it was just a lot of things being tried out. Some things worked, some things didn't, and it made for an exciting time to see really cool movies that and concepts you didn't really see before. But now that we're kind of not in that kind of era where everything's just getting recycled, if you're gonna recycle a movie, something with this kind of messaging and topic, I think it's worthwhile to swing for the fences and just see what happens. I'm hopeful it's good. But again, that's probably just me, hoping against hope.
All right. Well, Dave, let's say, what did you think about They Live, the original, and what do you think about this reboot?
Well, Sandy Carpenter sounds like somebody who makes beach cabanas, which I thought was kind of funny.
Wow.
I never saw the original, but I do remember I always thought the concept of the glasses was very interesting for some reason.
Yeah.
When I was a kid. But to Rob's point, sometimes you would think that reimaginings or reboots of fairly rudimentary horror things from the 80s would be easy and a slam dunk. And it's clear that they're not. Look what they did with Friday the 13th. Look what they did with Nightmare on Elm Street. You would think that with the technology and the things that they can do, and maybe these things look better, maybe it'd be, I don't know, more sinister. And they kind of, they just kind of fall flat. They just don't have the same. They just don't have the same kind of charisma or hey, look what we're doing for the first time in the 80s kind of feel. I think that's what really propelled a lot of these movies, a lot of these horror ideas back in the 80s, was that they were fresh ideas, and they were made in a time when everyone was literally making it up as they went along, and it just that added something to it. Much like Carpenter's The Thing, they were doing things that no one had seen before, and I don't anticipate If I had seen the original and loved it, I would probably not be excited for this at all. Having not seen the original, but also been somewhat interested in it, I'm still not excited to see what happens with this. I just don't think it's going to be anything.
Well, let me ask you guys a little off subject. You guys believe in aliens?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. We're not the only ones on this earth. Okay. That's fine. I'm just going to ask.
I know Ice does.
Oh, that's true.
Not wrong.
All right, man. So we'll
I don't want to get political. I'm just saying.
Just saying.
So we'll see. If they live, let's see what happens. If it happens with Sandy King is saying that it's going to happen. But all right. So our next subject here we're going to talk about is the hunt for Gollum. And it's actually Aragorn has officially been recast for Leo Woodall. I don't know the actor Leo Woodall that well, but he's been officially recast now, Aragorn. Dave, I'm going to start with you. People are complaining, saying, well, you got, Ian McKellen's returning and Elijah Wood's returning. Why not the original Viggo Mortensen? I guess this has to do something with the story. I don't know why he's not returning. Maybe he's got a lot more action. I don't know. Well,
there's a few things. One, even if you knew who Leo Woodall is, you wouldn't care because it's not Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily a strike on this guy, but it's like Viggo in my opinion, he kind of made that trilogy. His character, the way he portrayed it, everything that he did was phenomenal. Those were great movies. Now, there's also just the case that, hey, Viggo, you want to do this? No, not really. Well, everyone's coming back. That's nice. I'm not really interested.
Yeah.
I think it really could just be that, which is fine. I mean, he's older. I mean, I don't know what kind of what the workload is or what the physicality might be for this, but the only thing, it's like we're on the verge of having more bad Lord of the Rings movies than good Lord of the Rings movies at this point.
Yep, 100%. Rob, what do you think about this hunt for, if Aragorn, Viggo returning?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to be consistent because I think I said it in these terms. It's one of these movies where, in the whole world of Lord of the Rings and Tolkien, it's the story that's interesting, but do we really need it? Not really.
Nope.
It is a legit part of the lore of Lord of the Rings, and it's a very, very Aragorn, Gollum type of just really those two for the majority of that story. So a lot of walking, a lot of so I don't know if Viggo's looking at that dude, I'm not gonna be on set for 15, 20 hours a day, and whatever just uncomfortable elements. So and he is older, so so I respect that. As far as the actor goes, I mean, from what I've seen, I think this guy is more known for the HBO series White Lotus. That's probably his biggest claim to fame, but he's been in some pretty more than legitimate movies. And from what I've seen of him, he's a fine actor. I'm sure he's going to do fine. But again, it's kind of similar on topic, with these revisiting, reboots, reimaginings, and stuff like that, because that's basically what you're doing here. This is sort of like a sequel within the Lord of the Rings story, and I don't know. It's just the die's been cast with this character. And this guy is either going to do one of two things. Either he's going to be good enough to make this thing his own, which I'm not sure. I don't know what his approach is going to be to the role. Or it's going to be just, imitation of Viggo's take on the character. And if that's the case, it's not going to do well. I just don't see that. And honestly, there's tons of fans of Lord of the Rings, but I just don't know if there's a big clamoring to see this story made on the big screen. Yep. So I could be wrong. I just don't feel it. I don't feel like this is something that's having any kind of momentum. And I think this casting is uninspired, as no disrespect for the actor, but again, it's it doesn't feel like it's anything to look forward to.
Yeah. The actor Leo Woodall does have a little resemblance to Viggo, a younger Viggo. If you look at him, I wish I had a picture to put up, but he does look like him a little bit. Maybe with the makeup, he might look like Aragorn really well, but
Viggo the Carpathian.
So we'll see. I don't know. People are kind of want to see it. But
well,
at
we
least
know. I mean, listen. Anybody who's a big Tolkien fan knows that Tolkien himself messed around with like writing a continuation, like a sequel to the books originally, and he abandoned it.
Yep.
So whether he just didn't like where it was going, or maybe he just was like, I kind of told the story I wanted to tell. Like, it's great that people want to continue to do this, but the Hobbit movies themselves weren't great. The Rings of Power, that kind of came and went. From what I understand, a lot of people were like, this sucks. So like, we're going to take another swing without everyone's like most famous character. Yeah, that's going to work, guys. Andy Serkis can't save everything.
Yeah,
True.
that's true. We'll see. Leo Woodall's been cast. We'll see how that comes when that hits theaters. All right, now we got another reboot. Of course, that's Hollywood only likes to do reboots these days.
It's such a sad Wednesday, guys.
It really is.
We're doing reboot. We're gonna have reboot after reboot, and it's gonna be Robocop. Robocop reboot is happening. It's in the works right now. I think it's gonna be MGM, Amazon. Do we need a Robocop? We had one before. And, but, again, there's no more ideas going on. I mean, Rob, what do you think about Robocop?
Why? Why are we doing this to ourselves? I mean, this is where we are as a society. Come on. I mean, I think we should demand more out of our entertainment as opposed to just rehashing. And to be honest, this is that kind of really infuriates me. The people that are at the controls of like, giving us content, giving us films, to go to experience in the theaters, all they seem to want to do is just relive what they, grew up watching.
That's it.
And like, forget everybody else or forget any like new ideas or something, or again, just try to do something new. But this is where we are. Okay, hey, whatever. I mean, the thing with Robocop that's kind of like, it's really, this is a really bad idea because they did this not that long ago. They did do a reimagining of the origin of Robocop.
Yes,
with what's his name, Joe Carnahan or something like that. That's
Joe Kinnaman.
Thank you. Yeah. So it's like it was it was all right. It was but it wasn't like Robocop. The one that we remember. I mean, look, anyone who has not seen the original Robocop movie, okay. I guarantee you, it was made a long time ago. Watch that movie, and that movie's gonna floor you. You're gonna see some shit that you've never seen before in movies in the last few years. Legit, and it will. So that movie still holds up, actually, very well for what it is. And to do a reboot with something like that, to come close to that, I just don't see it happening. I think I was reading somewhere where it's like Peter Weller wants to be involved somehow with this. I mean, with all due respect, Dr. Weller, but he's got like really bad skin. It's just like he looks like a hot mess. I mean, he's like, he's part of the I think the Academy committee and stuff. You're doing good work, sir. But don't touch RoboCop. And I don't think even, and for what I read, he didn't like that movie. So, which is surprising that he wants to have anything to do with this, reboot. So I don't know. It's maybe they surprised me, but it's just like, we just took a swing at this not that long ago. Who's asking for this RoboCop reboot? I don't get it.
That's why when I saw it, I couldn't believe it. But Dave, are you interested in a RoboCop?
Peter Weller looks like Emil when he got hit with the toxic waste at the end.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
The original RoboCop is fantastic, and Rob's right; it still holds up 100% to this day. The action, even the janky stop motion of Ed 209 still is good. There's a very specific charm to that movie because of whether it's Verhoeven's directing, Peter Weller, the writing, the way it looked, even just the time that it came out, right? Like the biggest thing in that movie was Delta City, right? So Detroit's falling apart and corporations are trying to figure out how we can make Detroit fall apart faster, essentially, so we can build our big fancy city. Like that made sense back then. That shit's happening now, so maybe it's not that interesting. But we saw the Joel Kinnaman reimagining was fine. It was one of the most like just a movies you could get. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great. Very slick, like almost overproduced when you look at what the original RoboCop was. and it just didn't do anything to further the franchise or the character. Like, it didn't really break any new ground. The story was very different. And then if I remember correctly, there was a RoboCop cartoon.
There was,
and there was a series for a very short period of time. Was there not?
Very short.
There was very short.
It was.
So they've taken stabs at this character and failed miserably almost every time. It's the fact that the original is still so good. You're like, maybe today's the day, guys. This is going to happen. And I just don't see it. I just don't see it being any good.
Yeah. I mean, and also, I mean, I don't think people realize, but there's been actually 2 sequels made, RoboCop 2 and RoboCop 3.
I like RoboCop 2. That's still to me has the same level of fun as like Predator 2.
Yes, it has that kind of vibe, and I agree with you there. But it still doesn't hold a candle to the original. And forget 3. I mean, oh my God, it was just like, horrible stuff, man. So, but to your point, even with the direct sequels, they really try to capture the magic that happened in part 1. And, it's just the combination of Verhoeven, the writing. Look at the actors, those in that original movie. You got Michael Ironside. You got Jose Ferrer. You got, who am I missing? There's a bunch of guys that you're just like, whoa, these guys actually continued on to have significant roles in other movies that you remember. And the over-the-top gore, I mean, even the sequels, they couldn't even match that. So I don't know, again, I don't know where they're going with this, but there's no way to recapture what the original RoboCop movie did, even with the technology we have today. That's my opinion.
Yep, I'll buy that for $1.
Yeah.
Kurtwood Smith. I couldn't remember his name.
Kurtwood Smith. Yes.
Kurtwood Smith. Sorry, I said Michael Ironside. Kurtwood Smith. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know where they're going with this.
Ronnie Cox, like everything in that movie hit.
Yeah. I don't know.
The drug trip, the big scene with the cocaine. Yeah, you can buy coke. You can get cocaine at CVS. Nobody cares anymore. Like it just plays different.
Yeah. Even lines like this: "Bitches leave." Come on.
Clarence Boddicker. I still remember the name. Clarence Boddicker. OCP. Clarence. Those certain roles just resonate with you. So
at this point, you could say Amazon is OCP at this point.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah,
you could, man. But I don't know where they're going to go with it. I think it's going to big fail. So we'll see. But I thought it was interesting to mention it. Now we'll talk about the big hit, the big swing, Daredevil, Born Again, episode 4, Gloves Off. And right now, actually, and I saw this actually today, it was rated the #1 highest rated MCU Disney show per episode right now. It's rated #1 of all time so far on Disney. And let me tell you something. I thought, it was on par with Netflix. This episode, I don't even know what to say. It was absolutely amazing. And I was telling Dave before, Rob, you came on, that, Daredevil, he was in No Way Home, then he was in She-Hulk, he was in Echo, and then Daredevil Born. So he's sort of been the prominent character in this next phase after Endgame. So it's like, he's really just a great character. I mean, I don't even know what to say about it or where to start with this. So Dave, I'll start with you. Episode, Gloves Off. What did you think about this?
It was great. Each episode is getting better. It's like you even forget when you see some of the ads for stuff coming up. You're like, oh shit, Jessica Jones is going to be in this at some point. Okay, cool. Like it just keep giving me whatever you're going to give me. I really do hope that we do see some sort of evolution of Matt, because that's the only thing that I could say is like a slight knock, is that he still rides that line so hard. And we saw it a little bit towards the end of the last episode with him and Karen, figuring out like, how are we really going to handle the bad guys? Right. So we know Frank's not in this, which is fine. But I always thought the dichotomy of those two always made for great TV. But if Matt doesn't do something that pushes him maybe a little bit over the ledge, I'm not so sure how much they can do with keeping Matt in his little box. Because the only thing I'd like to do is see him do something. So him to figure out a way to let Bullseye do what he wants to do, which is take out Fisk. Because we know we're at this point 12 years into a Daredevil show, and he's still like, no, we got to take him in. We got to put him in cuffs. Like, it's not going to work. And I'm not saying we need to take Fisk off the board for Marvel in general, but like something has to give somewhere. But maybe that's what we're gearing up towards. But so far, it's been great. The writing is great. The action is fantastic. Like, all the action was great in Netflix. But this is really, really good. And we don't even – there was almost no Karen in this. And as much as I like what they're doing with her character now, it's like whatever focus they're giving in the episodes, it's enough. You're not wondering about what's happening over here, what's going on with this character. Like, everything is right there. And I loved seeing Lillard back and doing what he's doing. And that's also interesting to see, like, it seems like his leverage is fading a little bit because Buck Cashman just took his two goons out, didn't even think twice about it.
Yeah. That Bullseye diner scene that opened up was totally incredible. I mean, I was like, holy crap, that's just amazing. And for people watching, we're going to talk some spoilers here. So just warning everybody, if you didn't watch it, go watch it.
The worst part about the diner scene was the banana milkshake. No one wants a banana milkshake.
That's true. Rob, I mean, what did you think about that show and that episode yesterday?
Oh my God. First of all, that diner scene, the first minutes of that episode, I just thought in the back of my head, like, to our last show, I'm like, you know what, Dave? They heard you. It's like, you want more Bullseye? Okay, we'll get you more Bullseye. And holy shit, they gave you all Bullseye for the first like 5 minutes of that thing. And this guy is just freaking awesome, man. This is the Bullseye that, first of all, even with the older versions that we saw, like in the Daredevil movies, whatever, he's just always been a really fascinating character. His power set, it's like he's a freak of nature. It's like, he's not a mutant per se, but this guy just has a freak of nature skill that is so unique to him, and he's psycho. It's just it's a perfect combination for this kind of character and foil for Daredevil. So, I'm glad we went back to the Bullseye well, because, man, it really just got you into like, okay, let's get some action back in right from jump. And it didn't disappoint from there. A few things. I was just thinking about what you were just talking about, Dave, with Matt, and how you want to see kind of like him maybe go over the edge a little bit, to battle what they're up against. So, I'm thinking back to the source material, to the comic books, and that's one thing about Daredevil. He's one of those characters very similar to, like, in a lot of ways with like Spider-Man, with like he's always like, down, broke, whatever, depressed. Matt is kind of like the same way, because the thing is that he has that like Catholicism in him that's like, you know what, I shall not kill. If I'm gonna be saved at all, he doesn't feel like sometimes he can be saved because of what he does, but it's like the only thing that keeps him tied to what he feels like his humanity and who his father wanted him to be. So that's always gonna be the thing that's gonna hold him back. But I'm also thinking, like, there's been some instances where he has gone over the edge, and when he has done that, he spirals out of control. He goes down a dark path where it's like, that's when I think that's what you'll probably see if he does do that. And, he won't be the same Daredevil for sure. And it just means a lot of pain, not just for him, but for people around him. So maybe they're gearing it up. Maybe they're teasing that, with us, because we know that he has, like, he would never go there. If he does, I think this whole series turns a different, because now it's not Daredevil trying to save the city. It might be like other people trying to save Daredevil from himself. So, that, I think, if it could be a thing. Also, and then talk about spoilers. I'm sorry. What happened at the end? The end of the episode. Oh my God. And that's she just oh my God, she caught a stray right to her forehead. And oh my God, that when I saw that, I mean, I don't know if she makes it, but if she dies, you talk about character is spiraling out of control.
Yeah, Fisk
Well,
becomes infinite, exponentially more dangerous.
yeah, because now it's like not just like the episode title. The gloves really do come off, and now you're gonna get. If you didn't think Kingpin was scary before, why? If he loses his wife, watch out because the city will burn.
Yep, everyone's fucked.
Yes,
It's interesting. Fisk had a small period of timidness when he was talking to Charlie in the his name is Charlie, right? Matthew Lillard's character.
Charles.
Mr. Charles. The way he just was like, he kind of just sat there and didn't really look at him. I feel like he kind of looked at the ground and kind of looked up at him. It was a position you never really see him take. Like he knows that there is some leverage over him, and he's really just trying to figure out how to maintain himself in front of Mr. Charlie and what he really represents. I thought that was a very interesting little performance bit right there. And then, of course, once he shot and killed his two bodyguards or whatever, he got his attitude back a tiny bit. But going back to what Rob said about Spider-Man's always kind of had the same thing. But if you look at the power sets of each one, right? When Matt has to subdue somebody, but we've seen it even in the show, right? Like he's stepping on faces, he's breaking arms, he's taking out kneecaps, like he's messing these dudes up. Spider-Man doesn't have to do any of that. So it's probably easier for Spider-Man to really hold that line because of the power that he has. Matt has to be much more brutal to stop something because he's just a guy. So that's why it's interesting how close to the edge he gets and doesn't get right back over. But almost as we've seen, every time he's right there and stops, it just blows up in his face.
Yep.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
You know? and you could tell when Vanessa showed up at the boxing match, Kingpin knew she was in trouble. He said, "What are you doing here? You got to," he knew.
Yes.
And when he blocked the with the scrap, the thing that she threw at him with the thing, I said, "Oh, okay." But as it went on and she turned and it was in her head, I couldn't believe it. And so we don't know if she lives or dies. Doesn't look good though. So the end.
So jarring because it's like, the city's already like, they're he's already sent out the message that against the the vigilantes, and with the anti-vigilante task force really coming down on these people, I really mean it. I really think that the city, you're gonna see like riots, I think, and he's not even gonna care because now he's really gonna like take up his hunt to the next level. I think he might actually use, put that fear that he put in Mr. Charles and use that, maybe come up with some other leverage that we don't know about over him. And he might get some help from Washington, D.C., to do what he's got to do, what he feels like he needs to do. I just don't know how his plans go any further if he has that blind rage. So, man, if they're saving, I just don't know. Right, like if it stays like this, Jessica Jones doesn't even need to show up. If any of the defenders need to show, like they could just give me this. I'm plugged in as it is. So now I'm thinking like, how are the defenders gonna really now factor into this? And if the city's really burning, Wilson Fisk is really just like, fuck this. Everybody dies. I don't care. I want to see like how now the soups come in and handle that because they're gonna be fighting him and his supporters because they're gonna see that they just killed the mayor's wife. Public opinion on vigilantes are gonna be like negative, and they want these people gone.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be wild from here on out.
And because Daredevil's kind of saved Bullseye, so they're both going out together. They look like they're working together.
Yeah.
So everyone's gonna turn on them. So it's gonna get ugly. It's gonna get really ugly.
Even the governor said before they left, before we cut away from their meeting up in Albany, she was like, "Listen, your husband's wielding of power is very unsettling." And she's like, "I don't think I could support Mayor Fisk, but I could support Mayor Fisk and his wife." So you take Vanessa off the board, Rob's right. Like you change a lot of public opinion.
Yes, 100%. and Bullseye was shot. We don't know if he's going to die. He might looks like he's going to, because he ran off at the end.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to be okay. I think he's going to be okay. But Vanessa's the one we're going to
He got
worry about.
thrown off a building in episode 1 of season 1. He's going to be fine.
Yes.
That's true. That's true, man. Great television. I mean, it's one of the best series right now, I think, on TV, Daredevil. And I think it's actually better than the Netflix right now, the Netflix series. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
it's that good. So we'll wait and see. I can't wait for next week. We'll find out what's going on. All right, let's just finish up with some questions that we got in here. All right. And this one first comes from Chris J from PA. He says, Dave, I'm a big GB fan myself. I love the cartoon as a child. The Boogeyman Comic episode was the best, period. I was scared. Nothing compares today. I don't even know. You ever heard of this?
That's not a question. I'll just agree with him. I'll co-sign that. That's a great episode from season 1, sandwiched right before, I think, the Sandman episode. It's just great. And Frank Welker does the voice of the Boogeyman, so he sounds like Megatron. And it's interesting because in the episode, they're like, the Boogeyman's not really a ghost, so we can't catch him. So what they have to do, they put a bomb, an ecto bomb together, and they just put all their proton packs together on overload, and they got to blow up where he lives, basically.
Wow. All right. All right. Jim P from New York says, hey, Rob, if you can rewrite any movie with full creative control, what would it be?
Central Under.
Honestly, yeah, that would be one. Oh wow, man. It's like to rewrite something, man. You know what? I would say the movies I would rewrite it's not any these like blockbuster movies. It would be movies like one of my favorite author is Stephen King. And the biggest like frustration, reading his books are amazing, is that when they try to get translated onto the screen, it's very, very few success stories. One movie I remember that I watched first before I read the book was Dreamcatcher. And I was watching this movie. I'm like, for the first like maybe 10 minutes or so, I'm like, wow, this thing is awesome. It's scary, whatever. And then it just takes a hard turn. And then from there on out, the movie's just complete shit. But it really like piqued my interest. Like the book can't be this sucky. So when I read the book, I'm like, my goodness, like why why they made these choices to put this on the screen versus what you left out. So what I would do is I would rewrite movies lower like known Stephen King movies like Dreamcatcher. Some of these other movies that were like just okay. I would rewrite. I would just say in general, I would rewrite Stephen King movies because most of them need to be.
Okay, all right, gotcha. Next one says Ben D says from Iowa, New Jersey. Honestly, I enjoyed Michael Clark Duncan as Kingpin. Would you guys agree?
Yep, he was
I
good.
thought he was pretty good. His physical presence was pretty good.
I rewatched that movie at some point, probably right before Born Again came out last year, season 1.
Okay.
And I watched it. I was like, man, this is still not good. Like it's aged so much as like it's not terrible. Like you probably don't feel as bad watching it now as you did when you first saw it. It's still not good. But I have a certain affection for Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner.
Electra, yeah.
She portrays Electra great. She's in great shape. She's all the training. We get her end story in Deadpool and Wolverine, but they did her dirty too.
Yeah, exactly. But I thought Michael Clark Duncan as Kingpin was pretty good. I liked him.
I liked him a lot. I didn't think, for all the problems that movie had, he was not one of them.
No.
I really enjoyed his take on Kingpin.
He was Nick Fury before Nick Fury.
Yeah, legit. Like if they would have kept in that universe, honestly, I don't think I would have a problem with him as Kingpin. So he's much more charismatic than the Diaphano's version of it. Diaphano's version is more to the source material, but honestly, that version of Kingpin was fun.
Yeah, you're right, 100%. All right, next one, last one here. Nelson Yu from New York says, hey, Dave, even though the female GB movie gets shit, I enjoyed it and believe Kate McKinnon's role as Jillian was a standout performance? What do you think? Thanks. Keep up the content. What do you think about that?
This is a dicey topic for everybody.
All right. So what do you think?
I liked Kate McKinnon probably the most in that because her comedy it's different. What I didn't like is that in the original movie, everyone was very, very specific. Venkman was the creep. Egon was the straight, dry, not funny one, the smart one.
Right.
Aykroyd was like the heart, and Winston was the audience, essentially.
Yes.
And not everyone had funny stuff to say. Or at least not everyone had funny stuff to say, but Egon was funny because he was so dry and so very matter of fact about everything. In this one, in the female one, everybody's doing riffs. Everyone's doing riffs. Everyone's funny. Like, I get it, but they didn't need to be that. I think that was one of the things that really hamstrung the movie, whatever you want to say. McKinnon, I thought she was great because she wasn't really riffing. She was just being the kind of actress that she usually is in like Saturday Night Live. So
yeah,
if anyone was my favorite, it was definitely her.
Yeah, and it wasn't bad a movie. It wasn't bad. I thought it was okay.
It was fine. It was never the big SJW movie that everyone was yelling about on the internet. It was fine.
Yeah, 100%. All right, guys, we got to wrap up here, but another great week. Enjoy. We'll see you guys next week. Talk to you later, brothers.
Yeah, Zapata brand media in the building. NJ Roots, heavy bass feeling. Let's go. Started from nothing. Jersey streets, we owned it. JerZey pumping iron. Body builder coated. Gears on the course. Athletic, mind focus. George in the boardroom, boxing mind, we notice. 3 fighters united, hustle in our veins. From basement dreams to global campaigns. Zapata brand, we rise to the top. Zapata brand, we guard the state, we never stop. Built from sweat, now the world knows our name. Zapata media, remember the flame, I'm Zapata brand media. From NJ to the world we fight on.